Yeah, great. Well, I'm very pleased to introduce CleanTech Lithium, which is a very exciting opportunity to enter the lithium space in the new energy transition world that we're going into. Usual disclaimers, but we're in Chile. Now, Chile is a mining country, great infrastructure, both physical infrastructure, human infrastructure, lots of technical support there. We listed on AIM in 2022. We've been undertaking considerable work in terms of drilling to define the resource. We've done scoping studies on some of our projects, but it's very clear to us. And from one of our major shareholders, Regal Funds out of Sydney, Australia, that the real market for natural resource stocks today is Australia. Now, there's a deep pools of finance available for resource development companies, and in particular lithium. There's about 35 lithium companies in Australia. There's about 90 odd analysts, so they understand the lithium space. So we are progressing with a dual listing on the ASX. We're working on the prospectus and aim to complete that process very, very shortly. And we believe that's going to have a good effect on the share price of CleanTech Lithium when people see the value in our company. So what we have in Chile is a portfolio of projects. We have two advanced projects, Laguna Verde and Viento Andino. Scoping studies have been done on both at 20,000 tons a year, very robust economics. We've decided to spend our limited capital in advancing the most advanced project, which is Laguna Verde. It's in pre-feasibility study now, due to be completed at the end of Q1. It's led by Worley, very experienced in Chile. We have a couple of other exploration projects, but where Chile is very interesting is that it was the second largest lithium producer, was the largest lithium producer in the world. It's the second largest now, with production from the Salar de Atacama. The government's very clear that it wants to get back to being the leading producer of lithium. There are many more salars in Chile, which can be made economically viable, particularly using the technology we're introducing into the country, which is direct lithium extraction. The government has reviewed a number of sort of expressions of interest to take part in the private sector investment in Chile, and it's nominated 6 projects to have the highest priority, including our Laguna Verde project, which is clearly the most advanced lithium project in Chile. When we look at the situation with lithium, people always say, but why should I invest now? The lithium price is low. It's been hovering around $10,000 a ton, which is way below what it was 18 months or so ago. But the reality is that the growth in demand for lithium continues at a very high level. There's massive take-up of electric vehicles in China, other parts of the world, a bit slower in the US. But every analyst now is looking at this current sort of market balance to be over within a year or two, and then a very strongly emerging structural deficit in the lithium market, which will need many, many new lithium projects to come in. And most analysts are forecasting that to get these projects away, to get the financial support for those projects, they need an incentive price somewhere north of $20,000 a ton. So we expect to see, perhaps from later this year into next year, a strengthening lithium price, which will support the share price of lithium companies. And what we've seen is the majors beginning to enter this space. Now, 2 years ago, it was only China investing in lithium upstream projects. But as this structural deficit is emerging, majors such as Rio Tinto have stepped into the space. They acquired Rincon in Argentina 18 months ago, and only recently, last week, finalized the deal to buy Arcadium Lithium for $6.7 billion. So Rio Tinto is firmly believing in the long-term future for lithium. French company Eramet is developing the first direct lithium extraction project outside of China in Argentina, and it's coming into production as we speak. Eramet also investing in Chile in exploration for new lithium deposits. So if we look at our project at Laguna Verde, we have a dominant license position in this area. We've been, say, drilling for the last two years and working with the well-known hydrogeological consultants, Montgomery and Associates, who are the most experienced in Latin American lithium brines. We recently declared a resource of 1.63 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent, so a very significant resource. But Montgomery have recommended further drilling, which can significantly increase that resource further. As I say, the pre-feasibility study is underway with Worley. It's well advanced. We've finalized the location for the project site, which will be the DLE and the concentration happening at the project site, and then transporting concentrated lithium chloride eluate down to a conversion plant, which will be at the city of Copiapó, which is a mining center with tremendous engineering and technical support for projects. Chile, as I say, is great in physical infrastructure. There's an interconnected grid. We plan to connect into the grid, which is currently about 60% renewables and increasing. And we aim to have a power purchase agreement for 100% renewable energy, so that we can provide low carbon green lithium into the world markets. If you look at direct lithium extraction, it is a step change from the conventional evaporation ponds. There's been quite a lot of community concern with the use of evaporation ponds in Chile because of its large environmental footprint and the loss of water from the aquifer. When water in the Atacama, the driest desert in the world, is a scarce resource. So what we do here is to pump the lithium-bearing brine from the aquifer, absorb the lithium onto specifically designed adsorbent, and then re-inject the spent brine back underground so that there is no loss of water from the aquifer. So apart from being much more efficient in terms of footprint, not wasting water, the technical performance is also much better. We're getting 95% recovery of lithium from the brine, compared to the 40-45% you get from evaporation ponds. And from when you pump to when you're producing lithium carbonate, it's 1 to 2 days, not 12 to 24 months as you need for evaporation ponds. So this method of getting lithium from these salars in Chile is strongly supported by the government. They've made it a requirement in the National Lithium Strategy that all new projects should use DLE or equivalent sustainable technologies. We have a pilot plant in Copiapó, where we've been processing the brine from Laguna Verde very, very successfully with say high recoveries, very good rejection, more than 99% rejection of the major impurities contained within the brine. We then send in these large tankers our concentrated eluate to an existing facility in Chicago. So rather than building our own downstream conversion plant, we're using an existing facility, and we've been producing very, very high grade lithium carbonate. That's the white powder on the right, 99.78%, which exceeds the general 99.5% battery grade standard. We're going to be continuing to produce more material. The aim is to produce initially up to 1 ton of material, so we can introduce it to potential off-takers and strategic partners. Brine projects are at the low end of the cost curve. Our scoping study was showing about $4,000 a ton. So the brines are way down at the bottom end, much lower than the hard rock spodumene projects, let alone the the high cost lepidolite operations in China. So even in times of low prices, the brine projects, including CleanTech Lithium, remain very economic. We have very strong community support. We have an alliance agreement with the 3 indigenous communities, which are in the vicinity of the project. We have nobody living within 100 kilometers, but we do have communities on the transport corridors. They've been very vociferous in front of government and saying that all mining projects, lithium projects, impact the environment in some way. But from what they've seen, the way that CleanTech Lithium plans to use direct lithium extraction, that has the minimum environmental impact, and they fully support CleanTech Lithium in getting the operating permit that we need. In terms of funding, we have good news coming out over the course of the next few months in terms of completion of the pre-feasibility study, getting the operating contract for lithium for Laguna Verde from the government, having large quantities of material to introduce to potential strategic investors. And we want to get underway with those substantial discussions to bring them in as an investor at the project level. And we're seeing, I say, a much wider group, that the car manufacturers, the battery manufacturers, the traders are all in there. We've seen the industry majors, and now we're also seeing the oil and gas majors like Equinor and Exxon entering this space as well. So we expect to get some very strong strategic investors into CleanTech Lithium. In terms of timing, in the next few months, I said this is what's going to be happening. Our first thing is the application we made for the operating contract from government. We're expecting at the end of March the announcement from government that the project will go forward into direct negotiation rather than the normal public tender system. If we meet certain criteria, which we do, we will go into direct negotiation of those contract terms. And we're pretty clear what they are, because we've seen what the sale award to Codelco has been in the past. We have the PFS to be completed to demonstrate the technical and financial viability of the project, and the ASX dual listing. And this is where we really expect to see a significant impact on our share price. Our analysts are saying we're only valued 30 to 35% of our lithium peer group in Australia, and they expect that when we're listed, we will see a significant re-rating in share price with the good news that's coming out in the next few months as well. So in summary, this is what we have. We're in Chile. We're a mining country. It's a lithium country. We have very good physical and human infrastructure there. We're working well with our local communities. We've got strong government support for the technology we bring into the country. We believe we're at the bottom of the lithium price cycle. The only way is up. Once we're on the ASX, there'll be a very good comparison of what we have in Chile compared to the hard rock projects having to send their concentrate to China, and that's got geopolitical issues at the moment, whereas we can go directly into the market with our battery-grade lithium carbonate. We'll be bringing a strategic investor. We have a board that's got very good experience at funding and bringing major projects into production, particularly in Chile. I've done 2 major projects in Chile myself. And I think when we look at the final message is we have a very exciting opportunity to enter the battery lithium space directly rather than having to go through China. And where we are at the moment, at the bottom of the price cycle, and going on to the ASX, I think is a very good opportunity for share price appreciation very, very rapidly for our investors.
Steve, that's great. Thank you very much indeed. Obviously, lots going on. And I guess if we were to look forward, I mean, how do you see the lithium industry evolving over the next decade? And I guess, how do you see CleanTech Lithium fitting into that?
Well, I think it's a very interesting point, because all the hard rock projects in Australia and Africa produce a 5.5% concentrate. They don't have downstream conversion facilities. China seems to be restricting the sale of that technology into Australia. So all that material is going to China for conversion and entering the battery supply chain. Here we are in South America. We're in a country that's got an FTA with a free trade agreement with the United States. We produce high-grade battery lithium carbonate ourselves into the supply chain. So as we've seen with Rio Tinto stepping into here, Eramet stepping into here, we see Exxon going into projects in the United States. Lots of interesting DLE projects in the geothermal space and the oil field brines. This is the developing region for the lithium space. So rather than the higher cost hard rock, here we have this newer technology making the brine projects way down at the bottom end of the cost curve, and going to be a major source of lithium into the future.
Thanks, Steve, and thank you for your time, of course. But I guess if you could leave investors with just one key reason to follow and look at CleanTech Lithium's story, what would that be?
Well, I think if you look at a number of risk factors, and the one I always look at is jurisdiction. Are you in the right jurisdiction? We're in Chile. It's a great country to work. It's a lithium country. If you look at the company, we have a very strong board. We are at the bottom end of the price cycle. We are fundamentally cheap compared to our ASX peer group, and I think that's a very good point for investors to get into a company.